Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. For many of us, COVID triggered a mass reassessment. The result was the so-called Great Resignation and subsequent labour shortages. But that's all over, according to new research conducted by ELMO Software. Chief Executive and founder Danny Lessem says changed economic circumstances mean workers are now clinging to their jobs. Danny starts by explaining the term Great Resignation to Jeff Waters.
The Great Resignation is really as a result, it's a new bit of terminology which came with the great COVID wave of the early 2020s. So the Great Resignation was associated with where there were skill shortages, labour shortages, and you had generally employees or workers having the option of moving from job to job and having a very economically secure outlook. So whilst it's a bit of a misnomer, people didn't resign to go and sit on the beach or go and ski on the mountains. They resigned so they could get better jobs, either with more work-life balance or with better remuneration. And with the skill shortage in Australia, they usually got both.
You've, with your ELMO software company, has surveyed more than 1,000 Australian employees on their views on this. What were the key findings of your survey?
Well, the key finding is that as a result of the fear of recession, so the change of economic circumstance, is that people were much more reticent to leave their current employees. So if I can just look at the stats, and we'll try not to get too much in the numbers, but look at the insights we get from the numbers. But starting with some statistics, so we surveyed over 1,000 Australian employees, and we found that 81% were very concerned about the recession which they feel they're in or is coming soon. And of the respondents, 70% of Australian workers said they were keen to stay put in their current employment. So what this meant is that phenomenon of quiet quitting or great resignation, that's all gone. There's no choice now. It's more about job security than looking for better remuneration or better work-life balance with the next employer. So that phenomenon that came with the great pandemic, that's gone. That's really, truly gone, and a different set of economic circumstances and different approaches from Australian workers.
Well, there'll be a great many employers breathing a sigh of relief at that news after suffering terrible labour shortages across small business and associated industry. You say that a great majority of workers fear a recession or a perceived recession that they think is coming. Is that the only thing that's causing this?
It's the big thing. It's really about interest rates, so the increase of interest rates. There's a very heavy debt burden on your average Australian, and with the severe increase in interest rates and inflation, they're finding themselves in feeling very sort of economically insecure. So it really has hit people in the hip pocket, and that is the biggest motivator in terms of attitudes towards staying with the current employer or looking for new work. So insecurity leads people to be very risk adverse in their career decisions.
There's always a next step for your business. There's always help at every stage. As you grow your business, we're here to support you every step of the way. Move forward with Mazars. Visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.
Does this mean I'll find it even harder to get new employees?
It doesn't mean that it will be harder to get new employees because we are getting into tighter economic times. So before you said this is great news for employers, on the other side of the coin, employers, so businesses across Australia, are starting to feel the effects of tightening economic times. So as the recession is upon us, they are not keen to employ people. In fact, we've had a lot of organizations across Australia who are letting people go. So tough times for employers and tough times for employees, and it's all as a result of the macroeconomic backdrop.
Do you think, I know this is a hard question for one person to answer, but do you think that their fears are justified, or this 81% of people who feel insecure about the future, are they living by a myth?
Certainly not. They're certainly paying more for their food, for their fuel, for their mortgages. So they're really feeling the pain already of the deteriorating economic circumstance. So it's a very, very real driver leading to their job choices.
So is there any good news out of this?
Is there any good news? There's always good news. So the good news for, I suppose, employers is that now it's not such a tight labour market, so they can focus, instead of scrambling to retain and hire people, they can focus on developing people within their workplace. So that's if employers are proactive and they develop the skills of their existing staff, then they'll get more productivity and it will help them sort of surf the recessionary times until we get to stronger economic times ahead. From an employee's perspective, obviously there are not as many choices as there were a couple of years ago in terms of the tightening economic backdrop. But what it means is that those who stay put with their current employers can develop skills which will set them up well for the next economic boom.
That was Danny Lessem, CEO and founder of ELMO Software. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.